Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host here every Monday through Friday. Eric Rodriguez is talking about the hottest thing in the world, professional wrestling. I hope you guys had a great Tuesday. It is, almost midweek, so we have quite some time to go, but we have awesome wrestling to kind of get us along the way. We got AEW Dynamite tomorrow. Tonight we had NXT. On Thursday, of course, we have Ring of Honor and TNA, and on Friday is WWE SmackDown, which is feel sorry, excuse me. I kind of feel like SmackDown has recently become like growingly like my new like favorite obsession, right? It's with the bloodline drama and storyline, it needs to go to 3 hours. That's just my opinion. I feel like WWE SmackDown, once when it goes to 3 hours, as soon as you see Netflix go to Raw go to Netflix, I think it's gonna be great for all the talent. It's gonna be great for the WWE, but most importantly, it's gonna be great for obviously the people consuming the product, which is you and me, your favorite wrestling fan. Talking to other wrestling fans, do not be shy and make sure you guys go ahead and tap inside that chat box right there. Can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have an awesome show for you today, all lined up. Today, we're going to talk about some WWE Monday Night Raw. Then, we're going to talk about WWE NXT. And then, we're going to talk about my reaction just recently. I've been so busy. It's been crazy, absolutely nuts at work. I'm going to give you guys my reaction to the Mr. McMahon docuseries on Netflix. Obviously, all 6 episodes. I thought, overall, I thought it was pretty good. And then we're going to talk about in our fourth segment, it's been recently reported, kind of, the conspiracy theories, the rumors are hot right now in terms of Vince McMahon kind of going off on his own and starting a new wrestling promotion. And, something that I kind of got the vibe while watching the Mr. McMahon docuseries on Netflix is that this guy doesn't seem like he's ready to call it quits. It's been reported that Vince McMahon never wanted to leave WWE if it wasn't for this Janelle Grant allegations and this lawsuit and stuff like that. He would still be in WWE, and would it be for the best? Maybe, maybe not. I doubt. TKO would let him come back after all the BS, after everything that past wrestlers have kind of said, past divas, and it's just but overall I felt like although it seemed like the documentary did trash him in some sort of aspect, there was a couple times where I was like, you know what? It seemed like, like when they were interviewing Hulk Hogan and Trish Stratus and stuff like that, when, they were basically asked, hey, is Vince McMahon demeaning you guys, forcing you to do things you don't want to do? They're like, no, he wasn't. It was all for all for the eyes of entertainment. So he definitely had some, there was definitely some gray areas. A lot of people were kind of, were speculated thinking that this would ultimately kind of trash the reputation of Vincent Kennedy McMahon, former CEO and chairman of WWE. But in a way, I feel like it was. I think he kind of got off easy, if you ask me. But that's just me. In our fifth and final segment, something we do every Tuesday, we talk about today in wrestling history. I take you guys in my DeLorean, gun it to 88 miles per hour, and drive in the past of this day of October 29th. Damn, it's already the 29th. That's crazy. Wow, time is flying by, and not in a good way. No, it's not that it's not in a good way. Obviously, a lot of people, I love the holidays. I love the feeling that you get, once when you're, hanging out with your kids, and obviously the kids love, Christmas and with Thanksgiving. It's a nice warm feeling. But the only thing that I see, baby, is dollar signs, dollar signs, dollar signs, dollar signs. Time to get back into, credit card debt. But overall, it's for the family. It might be commercialized a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's I don't know. It's always really cool. It's kind of creates that fuzzy feeling that you kind of yearn for once when you're an adult. Obviously having kids keeps you young, especially on Christmas. They can't sleep a wink. All they want to do is open up presents, and then they sneak down to kind of see the Christmas tree and stuff like that. What I kind of do with my kids is I tell them that Santa Claus doesn't come unless you guys are sleeping. Like he knows, he knows. And then while I'm in the garage, wrapping presents like an animal, I'm just kidding. No, but, it's fun. It's fun. Obviously, all for the kids, baby. All for the kids. All right, before we move on, I want to remind you guys to go ahead and hit up the tips and donations link at the GSMCpodcast.net. Also, hit up that super chat, whether if you got a burning question or hot take in terms of professional wrestling or just something you've been dying to get off your chest here at the GSMC Sports Network. We are all ears. 1,010%. The show is all about keeping you guys in the loop, making sure you guys feel like your voice is part of the mix, and don't be shy. Drop your thoughts inside that chat. Obviously, if you want to make sure that if your comment, question, or concern, if you want it to get noticed on air and talked about live in front of millions of viewers, go ahead and hit up that super chat. It's that $ below that chat box. Anything that you put in there will be guaranteed to be featured on the show, maybe talked about, perhaps maybe even debated about if it's a juicy topic. And it's pretty awesome when the audience has a lot of engagement. Plus, it's a great way to support our channel here at the GSMC Sports Network. Kind of helps us keep the lights on all these amazing podcasts with these amazing podcasters with a passion for sports who have one goal in mind: bring you guys the best, most entertaining, the hottest breaking news, basically all the content that you guys wish to consume from any of your, your chosen sports provider, whether if it's ESPN, Fox Sports, or wherever. Here at the GSMC Sports Network, we definitely pride ourselves on keeping you guys in the loop, making sure you guys feel like you are part of the ultimately, the conversation. So like once when we're talking about news, whatever you guys have to say, it's going to be noticed. It's going to be noticed. So, it's always cool to, to attend and watch these shows. It's pretty cool. We are super grateful, obviously. Thank you guys in advance. We are super grateful for each and every one of you guys who joins us here daily on the GSMC Sports Network. Obviously, we owe it all to you guys. So let's go ahead and keep this party going. Let's keep this conversation, in the loop. Send in those super chats, those super stickers, because you guys are super awesome. And together we will make sure this podcast is bigger, better, and stronger than ever. Once again, if it's super chat not your thing, it's all good. Go ahead and hit up the tips and donations link at the GSMCpodcast.net. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Just remember to Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Follow the show, follow the network here at the GSMC Sports Network. We do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity 1,010%. But of course, in terms of talking sports, it's inevitable. Criticisms and disagreements are going to happen. It's all good. Feedback is a gift. So don't be shy. Just just go and drop inside that chat. Drop inside that chat, Mike. We can have a good one. We have a good conversation, me and you. All right, moving on. All right, let's talk about some WWE Monday Night Raw, the final Raw before WWE Crown Jewel in Hershey, Pennsylvania, at the Giant Center. And overall, I thought it was a decent show. We saw Jimmy Uso and Jey kind of talk it out. I kind of ultimately liked it that Jey Uso was a little, he was skeptical. He was ultimately kind of having this, interaction with his brother. And he told him from the get go, he's like, look, last time I saw you, we were beating the hell out of each other. You were basically, you were kind of treating me like Roman used to, and it just, really not seeing eye to eye with Roman Reigns just yet. But of course, when you saw SmackDown, come off the air, Jey Uso was proud that he was able to help the Motor City Machine Guns dethrone Tama Tonga and Tungaloa of those WWE tag team titles on SmackDown. So kind of like an eye for an eye kind of thing. I definitely love that. You kind of saw them, embrace each other. They're back to normal. Ultimately, I kind of saw, them feuding was not necessarily a way for, Jimmy and Jey to hate each other for the rest of their wrestling careers. I didn't think that at all. I thought it was nice how, it was at the time it was for the storyline. And at the time, Jimmy Uso was a little, he was a little aggressive toward his brother, obviously. But it was just all for the name of the family. It was just all exactly what Roman kind of wanted. At the time during WrestleMania 40 season. So, I thought ultimately it was kind of cool. We got OTC chants. I thought Roman Reigns was going to come out. To be honest, I was kind of looking forward to it, but it's Monday Night Raw, so it's not like it's going to happen. So I was kind of interested in in that. So then, of course, you saw the Bloodlines, Tamatonga and Tangaloa arrived for a cheap attack. So the Usos beat them up. Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu were there as well, which led Fatu going into the ring. Fatu super kicked Jey and headbutted Jimmy. Tamatonga hit a running splash on Jey. The fans were chanting OTC for Roman Reigns. Solo sent the chair inside the ring. Fatu put the chair around Jey's neck while Jimmy was being held by the Tongans, but Jey threw the chair at Fatu's head. Jey and Jimmy hit super kicks to knock the Tongans out of the ring. Jey, with a super kick, hit Jacob Fatu, and then both Usos super kicked them outside of the ring. So, definitely thought it was a great. I thought it was pretty cool. It was nice to kind of see these people, Jimmy and Jey ultimately come back together and, prove that, I don't think they should have ever kind of be broken up as tag team. A lot of wrestling promotions kind of have this common misconception thinking that, to promote a highly engaging a fan favorite of a tag team, you have to break them up. Or that I don't think that's necessarily, you know, the I don't think that's necessarily the right choice. All right, next we have Ludvig Kaiser taking on Sheamus. Overall, I thought it was a decent match. I wasn't really keen on Sheamus winning with the bro kick. Ludwig Kaiser, he's kind of the young one. He's I feel like he could definitely be in a spot where he possibly could be a WWE United States champion, maybe the Intercontinental champion. He wrestled in that match against LA Knight while they were in, Berlin, Germany for that SmackDown. And it was good. It was good. He was able to kind of ultimately hold his own. It's going to be interesting to kind of find out how this affects the Intercontinental Championship picture with Braun Breaker. But overall, it was a good spot. It's a really good spot. Then we saw Rhea Ripley featured in a video talking about how Raquel Rodriguez deserved the beatings that Ripley gave her. Ripley admitted she made mistakes in the past, but right now it seems like Raquel and Liv want to cry about it. Ripley said she only wants her Women's World Championship back, and you're gonna have to kill her to stop it. I thought the promo was great. I thought this is exactly where you're supposed to have, Rhea Ripley. There's no doubt in my mind that she's going to win the Women's World Heavyweight Championship back. It's just a matter of when. Um, she's the future of women's wrestling. I'm sorry, and and as much as people love Liv Morgan, some people love themselves some Liv Morgan. Obviously, I'm not there just yet, but I can be. I can get there. Like I said before in other podcasts and stuff like that. I like Liv. I dig Liv Morgan. I like her more as a chaser, not a champion. But Rhea Ripley, she's the future, and it's just almost a certainty. That's why I feel like sometimes I'm watching these promos. Sometimes I'm seeing what's happening between Raquel, Liv, Rhea, and I'm like, all right, this is she's gonna win it in the end anyway. So maybe that kind of discourages me to pay too much attention. I'm just kidding. No, ultimately I feel like their promos are, it's pretty good. Although sometimes with Liv Morgan and her laugh, I gotta be honest, it kind of drives me nuts. I'm like, oh my god, like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I don't know, I don't know. It's just the little wrestling things. All right, next we saw the Usos shown walking the backstage, and then they saw Sami Zayn. Jey hugged Sami while Jimmy stared at Sami, and which led to Sami saying that he wanted to talk to Jimmy alone. Jey told Jimmy to give them, a minute. Sami wondered if everything was fine now. Jey said he thinks Solo is worse. Zayn said that Reigns is the one that got in Jey's head for years. Kind of basically saying like, hey man, why are you going back to this place where they ultimately, they kicked you out. They made an example out of you, and he was the first one out of the family. And then Jey Uso was a little upset, told Sami that he wouldn't understand because he's not family. And and then of course, that's kind of how that ended. I'm ultimately against another heel turn for Sami Zayn. I liked him as a heel; he was cool, and then and then he was the honorary Oos, and it was great. It was good bookings. I thought it was ultimately well. And now there's speculations that he's going to go to SmackDown to maybe perhaps join a faction with Kevin Owens. Obviously, they are best friends. He was the best man at their wedding. It could possibly lead to something like that. It can, imagine a Survivor Series where, Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn are trying to take down this bloodline that they did them super dirty in the past. And of course, sometimes they might have familiar friends or foes. Like the reason why Kevin Owens turned on Cody Rhodes was because, you don't you don't go back to a place or you don't help out somebody who's done so much bad to you in the past. I know forgiveness is the right thing to do. But in professional wrestling, sometimes holding a grudge is, exactly what happens and creates storylines. So maybe this could happen. Maybe we can see a faction between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn form. Maybe a couple other superstars, perhaps too. It's possible. But ultimately, I would love to see Sami Zayn back with the original Bloodline. It's just going to be interesting to find out how they tailor-made a storyline, kind of bringing that into retrospective. So, I'm all for it. Can't wait to watch the next episode of SmackDown. I feel like I've been talking about it, I feel like the walls are kind of broken down. Raw and SmackDown, NXT, like everything right now is kind of in a mesh, trying to create kind of like a mood heading into this new Netflix, era. But ultimately, it was pretty crazy. Ivy Nile defeated Zelina Vega. It was, once again, kind of showing maybe that these people are going to be feuding the LWO, taking on American Made. We heard from Seth Rollins tonight as well. And then, of course, you saw Bronson Reed come out and do what he does best. Most importantly, it was, it was pretty cool. It was a good match. And then we have our main event where we had the tag team #1 contenders match where we saw, The Miz, no, it's not that. Sorry, my notes are all kind of. We saw the War Raiders pick up the victory. I thought the New Day were going to kind of be able to, I don't know. I thought it was going to be more of a bigger kind of landscape on watching this tag team unfold. But you kind of have Eric and Ivar, they deserve to be tag team champions. They've been kind of messed around on the main Raw roster and SmackDown for quite some time. But, it seems like, their storyline, it seems like they're like heading into like a babyface. And, of course, now we're going to start having this, Chad Gable costing Rey Mysterio once again. So I think, it's going to be interesting to find out what to do with this, New Day storyline. Once again, then we saw, Dominik Mysterio in that match where he was taking on a former world champion. And, I had high expectations. I had some pretty crazy picks. I was like, okay, maybe The Rock, maybe John Cena, maybe Brock Lesnar. But I was like, the pick that makes the most sense is Damien Priest. And it was Damien Priest. So in a way, I was surprised, not really surprised. But, surprisingly, Dominik Mysterio got he picked up the dub. He picked up the dub. Now he's going to, take on, Gunther. Should be interesting to find out how they ultimately kind of, pair that together. But overall, I liked the episode of Monday Night Raw. Obviously, you got to speed up, running out of time for this segment. I don't want to hold you guys over, too long past 9 o'clock. I apologize always because I just can't seem to shut my mouth talking about professional wrestling. All right, moving on. We have our WWE NXT talk. Obviously, I already know it has aired on the East Coast. But I have it recorded. 1,010%. Can't wait to watch it. It's going to be great. A lot of great, great things happening from the fallout of, NXT Halloween Havoc, which was, a success in itself. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. So, hey, do not go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Raquel Rodriguez here, every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time. Here to talk about the greatest thing in the world, professional wrestling. I'm your favorite wrestling fan. Remember that. Make sure you guys, like and subscribe to the GSMC Sports Network. Watch the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast, live every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time. Here to talk about all the action inside and outside of the ring, backstage curtain calls, rumors. We talk about superstar, inactive statuses, injury updates. We talk about contract negotiations, extensions, and signings. We talk about promotions from the AEW to WWE to TNA to Ring of Honor to the GCW to the NWA. If it makes major news, headlines in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on this show 1,010%. So, it's going to reflect on what we talked about right quick. We had our WWE Monday Night Raw review. Now we're going to talk about some WWE NXT. But of course, before we get into any of that, I want to remind you guys to go ahead and hit up that super chat, or if you ever have any question or a hot take in terms of professional wrestling here at the GSMC Sports Network. We are all ears, 1,010%. We want you guys to feel a part of the show. Let's keep this conversation lively, making sure your voice is part of the mix. So don't be shy. Drop your thoughts inside that chat. And if you really, really, really want to make sure your comment, question, or concern gets noticed on air, why not use that super chat? It's that $ below the chat box. Absolutely anything you guys put inside there is going to be talked about, maybe even partially debated about if it's a juicy topic on this show. So also helps to keep the lights on for a lot of these podcasts. Obviously your support makes all the difference. Make your voice be heard. Don't be afraid to be part of the content that you guys love so much. We are super grateful. Obviously, thank you in advance. We are grateful for each and every one of you guys who joins us here daily on the GSMC Sports Network. So obviously your support makes all the difference. So let's go ahead and send in those super chats, send in those super stickers, because you guys are super awesome, and together we will make sure this podcast is bigger, better, and stronger than ever. All right, once again, if you're not a huge fan of the super chat, you can still hit up the tips and donations link at the gsmcpodcast.net. Shoot me your comments, questions, and concerns. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Just remember to Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Follow the show, follow the network here, the GSMC Sports Network. We do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity 1,010%. So, make sure you guys, just drop your thoughts. But of course, in terms of talking sports, we all know it's inevitable that there are disagreements and some criticism, and that's okay. Absolutely okay. Feedback is a gift. Would just absolutely love to hear from you guys in terms of absolutely anything. Give me a shout out where you're listening from. Heck, tell me what you did over the weekend. No, I'm just kidding. But keep it wrestling. Let's keep it some good old fashioned wrestling. All right, so we have some WWE NXT preview and talk. Obviously, we're going to have the fallout of what happened at NXT Halloween Havoc, which was it was a decent pay-per-view. I ultimately liked it. It kind of received a lot of not negative publicity, per se, but people thought the matches could have been a lot better. I disagree with it. I thought it was a great pay-per-view. I loved the opening match between, Tony D'Angelo, Oba Femi for the NXT North American Championship. I thought that was pretty dope. And I thought the main event was pretty badass. Zarya, the women's division on NXT is absolutely just on fire, on a whole different wavelength, on a whole different level of success than the NXT's counterpart on WWE. You have Raw, SmackDown, and then also on AEW, Dynamite, Collision, and Rampage. TNA's getting, their women's division's pretty good. Recently you saw Jordan Grace, drop the belt to Masha Slamovich. So it should be interesting to find out how they incorporate a lot of these women superstars and maybe perhaps, challenging Slamovich. Once again, Ash by Elegance could state her claim. Tasha Steelz as well. There's there's an array of women's wrestlers that can definitely challenge for the belt now, which is kind of cool. I feel like that's a good reason why, Jordan Grace dropped the belt. Maybe she's going to spend some time in NXT, perhaps. Maybe you're going to see some NXT superstars like Brinley Reese, Carmen Petrovich. Obviously, you have the Lyson, Ariana Grace. ultimately, it's going to be great. This collaboration between TNA and WWE NXT has been absolutely money. Nothing really bad comes out of this. You've seen TNA literally go from 5,000 to 6,000 people in attendance to like 10. Their ratings are, immaculate. It's doing super great. And, it's a very beneficial relationship because, the NXT fans are excited to see these TNA superstars. You've seen the Rascals, you've seen Hammerstone. I would love to see the Moose and the System come and try to take over WWE NXT. I feel like that'd be badass. Of course, you saw Joe Hendry, the international sensation, the wrestling sensation that you miss yourself some Joe Hendry. The NXT universe absolutely loves him, and well, like I said, it's a very beneficial relationship. I'm definitely glad that they opened up that forbidden door. All right, so tonight we have a casket match between Wendy Choo and Tatum Paxley. Tatum Paxley showed up on NXT Halloween Havoc. She spun the wheel. She spun the wheel. I don't want to seem like a wrestling know-it-all, but I had speculation. I was like, all right, this has got to be a casket match because you saw Wendy Choo kidnap Tatum Paxley in that crate. So I was like, it just seems like it makes a lot of sense here. So tonight we're going to see Wendy Choo and Tatum Paxley in a casket match. I'm not too sure if that's the first ever, women's casket match. I think it might be. But overall, it's gonna be great. I love it when wrestling promotions, kind of have these women do the things that the men do, and I feel like it opens up the popularity. It opens up chances for fans to see these women, in these spots of, obviously this would have been really important earlier, probably like 10 or 20 years ago, where, women weren't really seen as like competitors inside the ring. It was just like eye candy or whatever. So, I love that these girls are going out there. I love that, I'm not trying to be a, attitude eraist around here and be like, oh, what? I love the blood. Obviously, that the Mariah May Tony Storm rival on AEW was pretty badass. I liked it. I thought that was cool. But I love these intricate matches. Something that could help the women's division just stand out. And definitely on WWE NXT, they've been trailblazers of how you run a successful women's division. And it's pretty great. Wendy Choo and Rosemary recently suffering a loss at TNA Bound for Glory, trying to gain the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championships against Spitfire. But Tatum Paxley also, she could definitely win this match. It's going to be interesting to find out who wins, but should be cool, should be dope. All right, we got Charlie Dempsey representing the No Quarter Catch Crew taking on Lexis King for the NXT Heritage Cup. In Lexis King's corner, we have Mr. Sir William Regal, the father of Charlie Dempsey. Maybe this is a way for William Regal to kind of come back into the fray of NXT. I feel like recently, in terms of higher ups, it's just been, it's been Ava, it's been Shawn, it's been Triple H, and now you have William Regal coming back. Maybe he finds a way to, help Lexis King gain the Heritage Cup. Which, it could happen. It could happen. Lexis King has kind of had this new character portrayal, kind of had this new transition into trying to be like a baby face. But, it should be on, it should be crazy to find out what happens tonight. I feel like Charlie Dempsey is going to retain the NXT Heritage Cup Championship. And maybe you see Lexis King out of pure frustration, attack William Regal and just being that heel that people love to hate so damn much. But I don't know. It should be crazy. It should be, this storyline could be badass. Next, we got Nathan Frazier and Axiom taking on Javon Evans and Cedric Alexander for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Every which way down the line, I felt like, Axiom and Nathan Frazier were going to lose. I don't want to bet against them ever, but Javon Evans is a young up and coming superstar. Cedric Alexander is an established veteran. If they decide to put the belt on Javon Evans and Alexander, I definitely can understand. But Axiom and Nathan Frazier right now, they are absolutely they're bombshells. They are, they're super hot. They're the most talked tag team in the world of WWE as of right now. I'm not really sure who walks out the NXT champions, and I feel like maybe that's the reason why this tag team division is, once again, kind of succumbing and kind of, toppling over Monday Night Raw and WWE SmackDown in terms of the women's division, also the tag team division. So, I don't really see how any of these guys could lose this match. Maybe you see, Wesley kind of make his way to, screw over Javon Evans. Maybe that could, maybe that could be a spot. Maybe that could be a spot. All right, tonight, it's been, speculated that Bill Bully Ray, obviously, WWE Hall of Famer, is going to be on NXT to address Rich Holland. Maybe that heading up to match at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, representing ECW. They're just talking about this, and we did a little segment about it a couple of, about like 3 or 4 days ago, how there's probably going to be a lot of ECW, legends, maybe, making matches for tonight, getting their name, trying to go back into the ring. Recently, you saw Rob Van Dam sign a, legends contract. Maybe that could be, worth something. Maybe, you see somebody like, no, I doubt Tommy Dreamer. I doubt it. I doubt he would come back. Probably no Sabu. Probably no Just Incredible. No Sandman. You know, I would like to see some more nostalgia, in terms of, watching this event happening at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But, if it doesn't happen, I'll take Bully Ray taking on Rich Holland. I'll take Rob Van Dam, making an appearance, saying hi and stuff like that. I would really honestly love Paul Heyman coming out and making an appearance. That would be so badass. That'd be so cool. And he's a recent WWE Hall of Famer, and he's the lifeblood. He's the passion that surrounded ECW. So I think that'd be pretty cool. Zarya makes her in-ring debut. They recently showed a spot with her promotion a couple weeks ago, and I feel like her making her in-ring debut is, she's from Australia. She's also another international wrestling sensation. NXT's the women's division seems to be cleaning up and being a huge marvel, like kind of astonished, kind of like I said, they're like the trailblazers. They're the top, they're the top quota. They're definitely exactly what you're trying to strive for. And with the addition of Stephanie Vaquer, former New Japan Professional Wrestling Strong Women's Champion, former CMLL Women's World Champion, and then you have Julia, who's accomplished everything there is in the world of Stardom, and now you kind of have you have Zarya too. So NXT, it's going to be hot today. Make sure you guys check it out. Obviously, I can't wait to watch it as soon as we go off air. So, yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be dope. All right, guys. So, hey, do not go anywhere. We're going to talk about Netflix's Mr. McMahon. Finally got done watching all the episodes. I'm going to give you guys my first reactions when we return. So, hey, do not go anywhere.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time, here to talk about the greatest thing in the world, professional wrestling. We talk about all the action inside and outside of the ring, backstage curtain calls. We talk about, drama, rumors behind the scenes. We talk about superstar inactive statuses, injury updates. We also talk about, we talk about their contract negotiations, extensions, and signings from promotions from WWE to AEW. If it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it. Sorry, excuse me. I just got done eating. I apologize. Uh, we talk about it here on this show, 1010%. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about this Netflix docuseries that was, Mr. McMahon. The first episode, obviously, just, talking about how WWF slash WWE became such a huge conglomerate in the world of professional wrestling, in the world of entertainment. Getting guest stars, like Cindy Lauper, and also, Muhammad Ali, then, getting guys like Mike Tyson and Mr. T, and they showed up on SNL. Sometimes you feel like you do have to throw flowers to like Vince McMahon as an overall kind of like a promoter. His father never really wanted him to take over the business. He was actually, against it. And then once when he saw the territory starting to falter to Mr. McMahon and coming to the WWF, a lot of fans kind of disagreed with it, especially with a lot of promotions that were just like, all right, like they basically stole a lot of superstars and most of them debuted around the time of WrestleMania 1. And a lot of, especially talking about, Ted Turner, how Vince McMahon was, kind of a little hypocritical saying that Ted was, this badass, monster billionaire businessman who was willing to topple over WWE. They were the little guy. They were, this little darling. And although it, wasn't really that kind of, that much of like a discrepancy or anything like that. Like I said before, ultimately watching this, you kind of found out a lot of things about professional wrestling that, to be honest, I kind of read reports and kind of knew a little bit about this, but I can understand how it can come to, quite a shock to, a lot of the fans out there. Vince McMahon even said in the documentary, he said, and I quote, "I wish I could tell you the real stories. I'll give you enough that it's semi interesting. I don't want anybody to really, know me." And, I feel like Vince on the documentary looked like a guy who'd never really had any remorse, who never really, for every messed up thing that he's done in the past, didn't really seem like he felt bad about it. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of like a sociopath. And a lot of people, like a lot of reviews I did read said that Vince McMahon, during the documentary kind of came off like he lost it. Like he doesn't really, know exactly where he stands and that was something that was talked about in WWE. The reason why he was first left WWE after the hush money scandal and stuff like that, how this guy would book matches after matches that was just, and storylines that were the same thing because he never knew what he did a week before. And it just, it definitely drove WWE to the ground, as he got older and as things started, you know, propagating and things started coming up, and it was just it was kind of crazy. It was kind of crazy. In the early days when Vince McMahon was involved in professional wrestling, um the way he promoted a lot of young superstars, like The Rock, during the Attitude Era, like, Triple H, and then he wanted Shawn Michaels as well. And I don't know, it's just kind of crazy how Hulk Hogan was such an important piece to the WWF and the WWE, starting off. And then after everything that happened, and him saying after all the the steroid scandals and stuff like that, kind of being hated by the fans, Hulk Hogan was kind of like, all right, gonna take time away from WWE. He told Mr. McMahon that he's done wrestling. I don't want to do anything like that. But he was a Hollywood star. He was approaching in Hollywood. I guess he was filming a movie or a TV show. I'm not too sure what it was. And then Eric Bischoff said that he had a chance to speak to Hulk Hogan, and he was like, "I want this guy to come to WCW." And then as soon as Hogan came to WCW, then you just saw this domino effect where you saw. I forgot who the women's champion was. Who she threw the belt inside the trash can. On live TV. Eric Bischoff, because WWE was taped. giving out all the results and stuff like that. And it was very narcissistic, but at the same time, it was genius. It was genius what Bischoff was doing. It was basically like, why are you going to watch this, trash company where you can watch WCW and WCW? I think it was for 83 weeks in a row. I think it was. Don't quote me on that. For 83 weeks in a row, they toppled over Monday Night Raw, and it was absolutely, it was crazy. It got to a point where Vince McMahon was, he was in trouble. He was in trouble. He knew that he had to bring in some star power. He knew that he had to switch things up. Obviously, still to this day, a lot of wrestling fans felt like he still kind of stole the gist of the Attitude Era from what was going on WCW. The way that DX was, they were acting and stuff like that, and all these wrestlers that were sleeping with other superstars that were using performance enhancing drugs behind the scenes, and then they decided to put the belt on someone stable like Bret the Hitman Hart. And Bret Hart was, at the peak of his excellence. He had this, he had this guaranteed contract that him and Vince McMahon were working out, where he would have been absolutely one of the highest paid wrestlers in the world. If not, would have been like one of the most controversial, crucial contract in terms of any sports entertainer. That's how big it was. And Vince was all for it, but then he, at the last minute, he pulled out, basically being like, I don't really want to be indebted to any other superstar. But Brett was definitely the best thing in professional wrestling. When he left the WCW after the Montreal screw job, I don't want to necessarily bag on Bret Hart. I don't, going to WCW, and Vince knew that this was going to happen. Leaving with the belt would have just absolutely crushed the credibility of the WWF/WWE. Once again, because you had Hall and you had Nash go over there as well. Then you had who's then eventually Bret Hart, and then Lex Luger, who was in that storyline of he was still a WWE superstar, but literally like the day after his contract expired, they pursued him and they brought him to WCW. And it was it was to a point where you kind of saw WWE kind of come to its last, kind of its last breath, and they were doing so damn much to try to sway the ratings, but it was hard because at the time Ted Turner and Eric Bischoff put on they put on an amazing, wrestling promotion that was cutting edge. It was very, new and edgy and cool and awesome, and really resonated with the key demographic of, age 19 to 41-year-olds, not really appealing to like the kids side. And that's something that WWE ultimately liked doing. But of course, then they kind of, created this whole Attitude Era, where they were kind of doing some crazy stuff on air, sexual innuendos and stuff like that. And, it brought fans back to the WWF, and, it left WCW to kind of leave and kind of stew. And at the end of the, kind of seemed like it imploded. I feel like WCW imploded mostly because, you had a lot of, of egos inside the room. You had a lot of people in charge of their own, creative control, which is bad. Which is bad. It could make or break an entertainment industry. Kind of like, what I like to compare it to, like, everybody watches the Marvel movies, everybody watched, Avengers Endgame. What if Robert Downey Jr. was like, no, I don't want my character to die. I have creative control. Iron Man's going to survive. But Iron Man dying was, he was the first ever Avenger, like, really, like, introduced. And it was just poetic justice, not justice. It was just crazy. It was ironic. It was, he died, he put himself on the line. He had not had the reputation of being that type of guy. And, it just helped the story make sense. And it kind of perpetuated, and it, helped promote a lot of, like the Spider-Man movies as well, like the Guardians of the Galaxy. You have no more Tony Stark. Captain America was gone as well. You had these superstars kind of go off, kind of leave. And I know, it's an interesting comparison, but, just imagine if Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. was like, no, my character's not going to die, and it just wouldn't have that same entertainment factor. So I feel like, it got to the point where the talent was in so much control, so much in disarray of what they wanted to do that, it ultimately kind of drove them to the ground. But and of course, everything that happened with the whole, and I'll keep this brief, with the whole Chris Benoit thing, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Everything with the CTEs, the brain injuries, and if you think about it, everything that happened with Chris Benoit in the past, he took so much damage to the brain. It was, it affects you. Like, look what happened with NFL stars like Aaron Hernandez or Junior Seau. Like, it gets to the point where you really can't control your thoughts and emotions, and if you're stuck in this state of depression, it's just gonna get worse and worse. So I thought it was interesting how Vince McMahon was kind of asked about that. Also, in the docuseries, you saw Owen Hart, how he tragically passed away, how they ultimately did investigate it, and it was just a freak accident. It was the manufacturer of the harness that were actually, they were sued and stuff like that, because at first Owen Hart's widow wanted to sue the WWE, and it was, who can blame her during that kind of run. And then of course, later on, on episode 5 and episode 6, it kind of started rounding out to basically how Vince McMahon was, and how he still, I feel like, the way he was perpetuated and the way he was perceived on the documentary, that he didn't seem like he was done with professional wrestling. It seemed like he was still kind of not being the character of Mr. McMahon, because I feel like there was no difference between the character you saw perceived on screen and also Vince McMahon behind the stage. And that's nuts. It's crazy. And now of course we're gonna get into our next segment where Vince McMahon is reportedly rumored conspiracy theories. Obviously, we love talking about them. Might be starting a new wrestling promotion. All right, but before we move into any of that, I got a couple of chats from my man Anthony Mazzano. Honestly, I'm thinking it's going to be revealed that Nunzio has been running things over Tony, and Nunzio is the boss of all bosses. Joking around, I think Vince McMahon might be starting his own adult entertainment company for movies. That's pretty funny, actually. That's pretty funny. For me, I'm surprised a lot of fans turned against Spread with that whole question, but I don't see the same fans turning against Medusa for throwing the belt. Oh, okay, that was her name. Throwing the belt on the Monday Night Nitro. I'm surprised that a lot of fans state supportive of Brett, but I saw a lot of fans turn against Medusa for throwing her title in the garbage on Nitro. I would probably think more like the discrepancy between how women wrestlers were perceived at that moment, and Bret Hart as well. But it was a huge deal. It like I said before, the wrestling WWF were, they got desperate. They got desperate. It was like, which idea is going to work? Because if we mess up and if we miss anything that could help our competitors, Eric Bischoff and Ted Turner, if it helps their promotion look better, then we're effed. Then we're screwed. There's no going back after that. But I definitely agree with a lot of people turning against Medusa instead of Bret the Hitman Hart. But overall, definitely, I feel like this Netflix documentary is a must watch. I would definitely check it out if I was a wrestling fan. For me, watching it kind of helped my history of trying to line up the stars, because I had no idea how important wrestling was in the 80s, how it definitely helped shape WWF and WWE for futures to come. And of course, like, obviously talking in 12 minutes about the documentary, definitely missed a lot more. Obviously, you had the Attitude Era, you had everything going down backstage between Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, and the whole China situation about her being heartbroken, eventually kind of spiraling down dark and windy and just terrible road that forced her into like using drugs, due to depression, anxiety, and stuff like that. Obviously, a lot to talk about. It'd be kind of interesting to kind of share a little bit more about this documentary on a different day. All right, but like I said before on the documentary, one thing I noticed that Vince McMahon seemed like he was still playing character. Doesn't seem like he was, trying in any way, shape, or form say anything to tarnish his reputation because, I feel like him starting a new wrestling promotion is possible. It's possible. And we're going to talk about it when we return. So, hey, do not go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you with the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Raquel Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time on the GSMC Sports Network. Talk about the greatest thing in the world, professional wrestling, all the action inside and outside of the ring, all the backstage curtain calls, all the drama, all the juicy rumors. We talk about superstars and their inactive statuses, injury updates, contract negotiations, extensions, and signings. We talk about promotions from WWE to the CMLL, to the NWA, to the GCW. If it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on this show. Definitely can count on us 1,010%. Kind of reflect what we talked about right quick. We had our Monday Night Raw review. We had our NXT talk. We also talked about the Mr. McMahon docuseries on Netflix, and now we're going to talk about Vince McMahon potentially starting a new wrestling promotion. But first, I got a chat from my man, Anthony Mazzano. Did you see the interview that Austin and Goldberg did recently where Goldberg revealed that there was points before he signed with WCW that WWF actually offered him a contract? I thought I saw something on there, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, that's kind of crazy because I feel like Goldberg in recent days, he's not a good wrestler. He's not a good wrestler. Goldberg's 1,010%. He's super cool. I could confidently say on air that I'm a wrestling fan, and I thought Goldberg was cool. Can I confidently say Goldberg was, a clean, a tactician inside the ring, that he was, that he was good? He was a good wrestler? No, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. I definitely think if maybe put in the right hands, like maybe if he would have, trained under the, WWF, personnel, maybe his career would have ended up a little differently. And I feel like it is a little ironic because Goldberg, gave that boot to Bret Hart, claimed that he told Bret to watch out for the boot. Bret hit it at full force, causing him to be concussed. After that, never really can get inside the ring again. Always felt, loopy, and, he was concussed with brain damage, bad brain damage. And if obviously if you push the belt too much, possibly it could wind up you losing your career, losing your personal life. Like I remember watching Muhammad Ali. I remember watching Muhammad Ali in a couple of interviews, obviously after he retired and everything like that, and he just looked like like brain damage. Like it just looked like he was. I don't know. It just looked like he was kind of gone. Like you know what I mean? Obviously, he's still there. He's not obviously in a vegetative state or anything like that. But it's it's kind of crazy. In that interview, he actually admitted himself that he got pushed way too soon. He did. He really, really did. But, WCW, Eric Bischoff, you had these guys wrestling smash matches. The fans were into him 1,010%. But it was because people in WCW wanted to compete with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, I saw that too. That's crazy. And, he admitted he wasn't ready for television. And, once again, not Goldberg's fault. Just because, he looks like Stone Cold Steve Austin. He might talk like him. He talks trash. Obviously no one could ever be Stone Cold Steve Austin. So it's kind of silly that WCW would be like, oh, let's try out this, bootleg. But of course, there were speculations that WWF did it with D Generation X, kind of copying the NWO. And, I could see some sort of comparisons as well. But I feel like DX was a little bit more, a little bit more wonky, a little bit more in-your-face adult humor, while the NWO just ran rapid all over Nitro and Thursday Night Thunder and just did whatever the hell they wanted. And no, I don't think Thunder was I think it was, no, I don't know. But it was, I remember watching that interview as well, and it's, it's very interesting. It's very interesting because I feel like Goldberg, still to this day, he's kind of getting a lot of spit for it. Like he's kind of being the reason why people were like, oh, WCW failed because the talent, they were, there was no good, not trained wrestlers going out there and representing the brand, hurting actual superstars like somebody like, I think it was the Disco Inferno who got injured, or Buff Bagwell or Mike Awesome. Um, who actually would, they got injured. They got freaked up inside the ring, man. It was so real. It was so surreal that at the time, if you were, in Eric Bischoff's shoes, the best thing probably to do it was just deny, 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 and be like, all right, Bill Goldberg, just keep going out there in wrestling matches. We can't really show our hands here. We can't really be like, all right, we can't be like, oh, Goldberg's going to disappear off TV for a little while because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing inside the squared circle. That's something that you literally can't open to like admitting. And the fans were into Goldberg. That's plain and simple right there. This guy, he was big, he was bad, trash talking. He was like this monster behemoth, physical wrestler that, if I'm not going to, you saw the jackhammer, you saw the military presses. It's Goldberg was definitely one of my favorite wrestlers in WCW. Like I said, not because of the whole fact that he was, a better inside the ring wrestler. Now, him coming to WWE, kind of being in a lot of squash matches where he defeated Kevin Owens for the WWE Universal Championship, where he defeated The Fiend as well, when The Fiend was, absolutely portrayed as this unstoppable force. He was getting pushed. And, beating Nick Nemeth also, Dolph Ziggler, I didn't like that as well. Goldberg should have been like a legend in wrestling. Like when you saw Kurt Angle come back, or when you saw John Cena, take a couple of falls. Like, you just got, not a jobber, but you just, you got to start promoting the younger talent inside WWE. And that's something that I feel like ultimately kind of crippled Kevin Owens' his push in his career, where you saw him drop the title to Goldberg. But obviously, there's a lot of, obviously, my opinion, 1,010%. Thank you guys for chatting as always. So, talking about the main subject matter here in this segment, Vince McMahon starting a new wrestling promotion. It's possible. The guy he has shown that he does not want to get out of the wrestling business. He, till the day he dies, will be on the screen, will be, behind the camera, kind of running and delegating things and stuff like that. I personally think he probably could find a wrestling promotion that could ultimately, because there's a lot of wrestlers out there. There's a lot of wrestlers trying to get into this cutthroat industry. Vince McMahon, without no ties to WWE, without no ties, I personally think it would be impossible, but that's just my opinion. I think that's just, he will never come back to WWE. And if you're TKO Holdings or, UFC or whatever, you can't chance it. You can't chance this guy who has a bad reputation. Obviously, the hush money scandals. Obviously, everything with the sexual assault and sex trafficking allegations of Janelle Grant. You can't trust things like that. Like, you recently saw the NWA come off the CW network because it was told and reported that they were let go by the CW, and now they run their episodes on their X account, Twitter, whatever you like to call it, because they did a spot where, you had one of the wrestlers go out in the crowd and do a line of cocaine with one of the fans. And it's just, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that, dude? So I doubt Vince McMahon ever comes back to WWE. Maybe he finds a spot, working perhaps, with TNA. Right now, TNA, Scott D'Amore, like, if they ever found out that Vince McMahon was going to be running the seeds behind TNA, that would be incredibly dumb. I feel like that'd be terrible. TNA right now, you don't need a Vince McMahon kind of aspect of it. Like, look exactly what happened with Vince McMahon once when, he was in control of these NXT superstars that were being brought up. Because NXT was a developmental territory, it was ran by Triple H, and you had, wrestlers like Aleister Black, Keith Lee, you've seen, Lars Sullivan, you've seen a lot of these talented superstars that, as soon as they made it up to the main roster, it was just like a joke. It was a joke. He never really necessarily cared to push any of these young superstars because he already kind of in the back of his mind knew that, okay, I want this guy to come out, I want this guy to look good, you know. And it just wasn't the right decision. And if you start a new wrestling promotion, you definitely starting fresh, you have the money to do it. In terms of the television screening time, right now with this new age of digital social media and digital media, where you can run episodes on like your YouTube page, or you can run episodes like NXT, or no, not NXT, excuse me, like WWE Speed on their X account every Wednesday. You could have something maybe perhaps like that, but I'm not too sure if it'd get a lot of attention. And I'm not too sure, mostly based on the fact that, a lot of people, if you're not really keen on the sense of who Vince McMahon is, if you weren't really a fan of WWE growing up, if you're this new day and age fan and stuff like that, you're gonna look at Vince McMahon's new wrestling promotion and be like, all right, like, why should I watch this? That's something that a lot of, creative officers, or, writers in terms of screenwriters in the wrestling war room, being like, what can I do to give this promotion to kind of stand out? And the thing that would make it stand out the most is Vince. Vince would have to be on camera. He'd have to be, on the screen. He'd have to and I feel like he can't do any of that without referencing all the credibility that he lost and his reputation in WWE. So for him starting in a wrestling promotion, and I know it's been the buzz of wrestling news media in the past, the past couple of months, because I think I've been reading a lot of conspiracy theories. I've been reading a lot of articles stating that Vince McMahon is, he's going to open up his new wrestling promotion. Even maybe going into business with like somebody like Jeff Jarrett, or one of these independent bookers or something like that. It's possible, yeah. Obviously, if you have all this money, if you could throw it, even getting ratings from like the low thousands and stuff like that. Obviously, you're kind of seeing TNA, kind of stay afloat, and maybe somewhere down the line, they find a way to kind of mesh with WWE, but not necessarily being a part of WWE. I feel like Vince should retire, but that's just my opinion. You have all this money, spend it with your grandkids, dude. Have fun. Sit on your arse. Just watch TV, watch football. Buy a boat, dude. If you want, to switch up something in your life, or you want your life to be more exciting, maybe become a telemarketer. I'm just kidding. No, no, but I don't know. I don't know. I just don't see this happening. I don't see this happening. I would probably kind of stick a fork in it. It's done. Because, like I said, if Vince McMahon starts his new wrestling promotion, then the wrestling promotion is going to be featured mostly around Vince. And, the egomaniac that Vince McMahon is, that's why I'm thinking maybe it might be a possibility because of the way he is. But I don't know. I think it's no good. Obviously, you guys, let me know inside the chat how you guys would feel if you guys would watch a new wrestling promotion from Mr. McMahon. But as of right now, I just don't see it happening. That would be kind of crazy. All right, guys. So hey, do not go anywhere. We're going to jump on into our fifth and final segment. Something we do every Tuesday. I take you guys into my DeLorean, gun it to 88 miles. And then we go back in time on this date of October 29th, back in time. So, fasten your seatbelt, grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage, and get ready for a bumpy ride. All right, and we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry, excuse me. Going to talk about the greatest thing in the world, professional wrestling. A huge fan, obviously been a fan my whole entire life. Ever since I was, 6 or 7 years old, I remember returning on some, Monday Night Raw. And obviously, later on down the line, we had, SmackDown on UPN, which was badass. I like that. It was pretty cool. With my family, and it's just, it was great. It was great. But we talk about the past, we talk about the present, we talk about the future as well. Sometimes we talk about some WCW. Hey, screw it. Sometimes we talk about some ECW. It's all glory. It's all glory. It's all gravy, baby. So obviously, this show is all about talking about professional wrestling. Obviously, this kind of reflect on what we talked about right quick. We had our WWE Monday Night Raw review, our WWE NXT talk. We also talked about Vince McMahon, the Mr. McMahon docuseries on Netflix. Gave you guys my initial reaction, obviously. It was a lot to cover, so I might have missed some spots. But overall, I thought it went pretty smooth. Thought it went pretty smooth. And in our fourth segment, we talked about Mr. McMahon starting a new wrestling promotion. Is it something that could be profitable? Is it something that could possibly it could basically be watchable? Like without, obviously, I feel like if it's going to work, it would have to incorporate a lot of Mr. McMahon, maybe a couple of past wrestlers. Brock Lesnar stated that he doesn't want to go to WWE unless Vince McMahon's part of it. That was kind of like his thing, because Vince McMahon took care of, Brock Lesnar, have him winning the championships and stuff like that. So, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. But now we're going to jump on into our Tuesdays. Today in wrestling history, we're going to jump on into my DeLorean, gun it to 88 miles per hour. And we're going to jump on in through this journey here. So, let's go ahead and do this, guys. Are you ready? Are you ready right now? We're going to stop at a 7-Eleven, get your favorite soda. I'm just kidding, no. But moving on. All right, so in 1985, before going up against Ric Flair at Starrcade, Dusty Rhodes delivered his instantly iconic Hard Times promo, which is frequently held up as one of the best in the history of professional wrestling. Dusty Rhodes was special. There's a reason why, he was very prominent with the NWA and, wrestling in WWE/WWF for a little bit, never really came in fruition. Then his son came out, Cody Rhodes, and he was kind of seen as a glorified jobber. Didn't really make it. It took, Cody to come out of WWE, wrestle with the independent circuit, kind of become, a main star, kind of being like, look, like, this is what you guys were missing. This is what WWE, you missed out on a lot of, future stars that could have been huge. That could have been very, very huge. Obviously, you had the push of, Cody Rhodes coming out with his dad, and then you had, Florida Championship Wrestling as well. Then you had, what was that in Cleveland? I think it was. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on this. You had a lot of these territories. You had NXT starting to come in fruition. And, it got to the point where there were so many of these young guys that probably Vince and Triple H not Triple H at the time, probably Vince saw with like Pat Patterson and Jared Briscoe and Bruce Pritchard. They're probably like, you know what, let's just go with these guys. But obviously they brought Cody back, seeing how he matured. The guy started his own wrestling promotion, for Christ's sakes, AEW. So I don't know. Dusty Rhodes was definitely undervalued. He was supposed to be that new guy that was set, that was going to take WWE to the next level. Once when you kind of saw, Vince McMahon was like, okay, we need somebody to kind of take us, we need someone with that flair. Before they chose Hulk Hogan, Vince McMahon Senior wanted to choose Dusty Rhodes, but Vince McMahon was kind of like, I just want to go with something different. So I definitely think I thought it was kind of crazy. In 1988, in New Orleans, Louisiana, the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal defeated the Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane to win the NWA World Tag Team Championships. Congratulations! I loved myself some Road Warriors. I remember playing Super Nintendo. Me and my brother would always be Hawk and Animal. Taking on the natural disasters, earthquake and typhoon, and it was just their theme song was badass. Like it was just so I don't know, it was just cool. I thought it was badass. I was a huge, obviously I kind of got into them a little later where they were kind of showing, they were kind of featured on, later WWE television still, but they were just still, oh my God. The shoulder pads, the football pads with the spikes. It was, oh my God, it was sick. It was out of this world. Oh my God, it was out of this world amazing. I loved the Road Warriors, and I was lucky to kind of see them, in their last kind of stint. So, but overall, badass, super sick. You still see the Doomsday device being portrayed on WWE. So, got to respect that. In 1995, WCW Halloween Havoc took place in the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan, during the Zodiac or Brutus Beefcake versus Randy Savage match. A female fan got into the ring and tried to attack Savage, but was restrained and ejected by the referee. The main event featured the in-ring debut of the Giant Paul White, the Big Show, going up against Hulk Hogan for the second time for that show. Earlier, they faced off in a monster truck sumo match, which ended with when Hulk Hogan accidentally knocked the Giant off the roof of the Cabo Hall. An actual match, which was that WCW stuff. Like, you had matches like this, and that's something that during 1995, where they were trying to establish themselves as a wrestling promotion. This is not really like much of a surprise. You kind of had to think outside of the box. Outside of the box. Sorry, excuse me. You kind of had you had to get those new innovative ideas that would draw fans in, that would draw wrestling fans to kind of come watch this. So, and then when you saw the Giant debut, obviously the Big Show, if you guys don't know who he is, Paul White, he's a big dude. He's a big dude. He kind of gave off, and I'm not trying to compare apples to oranges here, but he kind of gave off a lot of the Andre the Giant kind of feel. Kind of like a reboot, kind of like a reincarnated version of Andre the Giant taking on Hulk Hogan. Maybe potentially having this feud where it's just basically people living in nostalgia, being like, oh, holy crap, it's just like Andre the Giant taking on Hulk Hogan in the 80s. But obviously it wasn't it wasn't that. It wasn't that. And it's it was, I'm not trying to crap on the Giant or anything like that. Or I ultimately I like the Big Show in WWE. Obviously, in terms of bigger wrestlers don't really deserve the pushes that they ultimately get, because they look so dominant to begin with every single time they step inside the ring. Every entrance they come out with like such aura, such like dominating physicality presence. And it's not easy to kind of book. It's and you saw the Big Show booked in a lot of being booked in a lot of bookings that necessarily didn't seem like it was right for him. I can name definitely one off the bat. In his later career, teaming up with Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, taking on D-Generation X. I thought that was stupid. I thought that was terrible. It sucks for the show. I feel like the Attitude Era would, not be there without him. I definitely loved it when he did team up with the Undertaker. I thought that was badass. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. In 2000, sorry, excuse me, my notes are acting wonky. In 2000, in what we Vote Wrestling newsletter, the worst major show in 2000, the 12th and final WCW Halloween Havoc pay-per-view was held at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. One of the matches saw Jeff Jarrett pin Sting after various interference from 5 other people dressed as Sting against the actual Sting. WCW, what can 2000s, kind of heading toward the brink there. Elsewhere on the card, you saw Buff Bagwell face, David Flair in a First Blood DNA match to see who was the father of Stacy Keibler's unborn child, which was won by Bagwell after busting Flair open. After the match, Lex Luger attacked Bagwell, causing him to also bleed, which allowed Flair to steal a DNA sample from Buff Bagwell. Not really much there. Moving on. In 2005, Chikara Next Monster Mash is held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The opening match sees Jervis Cottonbelly lose to Ghostface from the Scream movies by disqualification, and And following this darkness, Crabtree hit a stunner on the Grim Reaper for the pin and the win. The main event is Dracula, the Mummy, and the Wolfman taking on Jason Voorhees, Freddy, and Leatherface. The match ended after Dracula slammed Jason, allowing the Mummy to hit a shooting star press and get the cover. So that's that's pretty badass. In 2007, on the Monday Night Raw, Kelly wins a 10-woman Halloween Battle Royal, and later Hornswoggle beats Jonathan Coachman with Mick Foley as the special guest referee. The main event saw Triple H lose in a handicap match to a team of Randy Orton and Umaga, also interference from the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. In 2018, abroad, Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea Cruise, a high wattage 6-man tag team match took place, dubbed as the Bullet Club versus the Alpha Club. In the match, you saw Cody, Marty Scurll, and Kenny Omega of the Bullet Club defeat Chris Jericho and the Young Bucks Alpha Club. In 2020 on NXT UK, Walter successfully defends the brand's title belt against Ilya Dragunov in a match that went for over 25 minutes. And we have a notable birthday today. We have Paul Orndorff. He was born in 1949. Obviously, talking about wrestling in the 80s, he was a huge competitor, going up against Roddy Piper, also going up against Hulk Hogan. So definitely throwing flowers to his birthday there, and talking about some crazy stuff that has happened on this day in the past of professional wrestling. So thank you guys for taking this ride with me. Hopefully, I drove the DeLorean, with following all the rules, never exceeded the amount of 88 miles per hour. I'm sorry, I'm a huge Back to the Future dork. Definitely love Doc Brown and the DeLorean. It was just badass, just so cool. Oh my god, it was definitely one of the best movies ever made. I don't know if that's harshly or if that's a hot take mentioning on this podcast, but I feel like Back to the Future is definitely in the top 10 of the greatest movies ever made. All right, guys. So, hey, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hope you guys had fun. That's obviously, hope you guys felt like you guys were a part of the show. This is our show, not necessarily my show in the GSMC Sports Network. But thank you guys for tuning in always to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast. Love you guys 1,010%. Remember to follow us on Twitter /X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for more content and updates. Also, remember that the GSMC Sports Network, we do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity. So don't forget to donate. Also, it helps keep the lights on for a lot of these awesome podcasts to keep doing what they're doing. And remember, if you're not a wrestling fan by now, we have basketball right around the corner. We got Nelson with the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We got, NFL cooking up. We have, the Chip Shot Football Podcast with my boy Manny, and the GSMC Football Podcast with Kenneth. If you want to find out all the latest news in the NFL, reviews, previews of the week by week, NFL season. Make sure you guys tune into their shows. We also got, college football as well. We got my boy Tommy with the GSMC College Football Podcast. Make sure you guys tune into that. And of course, surrounding football, college, NFL, whatever, comes fantasy. Hope everybody's fantasy lineups are still intact. I know that it's, I drafted who? Kittle, Samuel, and it seemed like they all kind of went down at the same time. And I was like, great. Oh my God, great. Not really that great. I had to pick up Devin Singletary from the Giants, which wasn't great. But if you want to find out all the stardoms, the symptoms, who to pick up after waiver wire, all the hottest, information in terms of fantasy sports, make sure you tune into Chris Shepard's GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. Maybe your team could turn out to be a WWE champion. Also, we have all around sports. We talk about the World Series, talk about basketball, football, baseball, you name it. With my boy TJ with the GSMC Sports Podcast, and Sports by GSMC with my boy Jeremy. Make sure you guys tune into their shows. And of course, we got my boy Emran in 3 minutes starting this GSMC Soccer Podcast. So if you're starting to get into soccer, or if you're a diehard, veteran in terms of being a fan of the action you see on the pitch, make sure you tune into Emran's podcast. It's, super entertaining, super awesome. Definitely, 1,010%. You guys will not, never, ever, ever regret subscribing to the GSMC Sports Network and seeing all these amazing podcasters doing something that, I watch their podcasts, and you gotta be honest, you learn a lot. You learn a lot, and you're a student of the game. That's especially, that's how I feel. I definitely, think that you can only get better. You can only get better, and definitely watching these guys' podcasts definitely makes me, definitely want to make me step up my game. Definitely, ultimately makes me want to, kind of pick up some of these cues, kind of pick up some of their terminology. Maybe sometimes during their segments, they kind of do like a stint, I guess you can like to say, or like a list or a breakdown that I'm like, oh, like crap, maybe I could do something like that. So definitely love and respect all these guys. Hope you guys had an amazing Tuesday, gearing up for an amazing Wednesday. Stay beautiful, but most importantly, love you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that